welcome to Fright Fix. And today, our first episode of 2023, but you guys probably won't listen to this until like March or April or something. Today, we're going to talk about The Menu, starring, let me guess, Ralph Fiennes, Anya Taylor-Joy, Nicholas Hoult, and a bunch of other people that I don't remember.
But you remembered those three off the top of your head, which was pretty impressive to start with.
Oh, yeah, and there's John Leguizamo as well. He's in there as well. He's one of my childhood favorites. He's the one who plays the washed-up actor.
Yeah, the movie star.
The movie star, yeah.
I think that's how he's listed in the credits. It's just movie star, even though I'm pretty sure he does have a name.
But yes. Don't remember. I just remember him as John.
Yeah.
Good old John.
Good old John. So yes, The Menu.
So what did you think? Sorry I made you watch this movie in advance.
Okay, well maybe we have really different views then, because I loved this film.
Oh good, I'm glad
I
you said
thought
that.
this was brilliant. In fact, like there's only a few films that I watch where I'm just enthralled by it from beginning to end. I'm like trying to figure out what's going on, and I keep missing the mark, which is really nice because that means that it's creative and it's new and it's something that I haven't seen before. And I just think that this is a very standalone film in terms of the story is. You can pick this out and say, I haven't really seen anything like that. It's really high quality, amazing, incredible acting, like everything from the costume to the pacing of it and the music. And just, it was a very well-rounded, really cool film, I think.
Yeah.
And it's one of those films that I would get excited to, you know, say to somebody else, you should definitely see this and know that pretty much everyone's going to enjoy it. Like, it's not a horror film, I wouldn't say. I'd say it's like a psychological thriller, probably.
Yeah.
And so it suits a lot of audiences. And I love some of those films. Like, I love films that are quite niche and, you know, really up our street, but not up other people's. Makes you feel cool. But this is a film where I think, it would work on all levels with a lot of audiences. So what about you?
I really enjoyed it. The whole thing just felt very boutique and premium, and this movie just came out of nowhere. I remember for ages seeing like the posters of it and being intrigued by it, but I didn't realize it was. I mean, I just thought it was some kind of food drama or something at first. I didn't realize it was like there were some moments that had me on the edge of my seat. I did find at points I did find it not scary, but I was like there with bated breath, just waiting to see what happens next, kind of thing. But I loved it. I just could. I made the mistake of watching like a making of documentary straight after it, which kind of like took away a bit of the magic, which I suppose all making of documentaries do, or behind the scenes things. But during the movie, the visuals, the acting, the way things were shot, the storytelling, just everything was just sharp. Like it was just much like how pinpoint razor sharp the cooks were, and you know their precision and everything. I just felt like the whole film had that same precision and that whole level.
I love that.
Ooh, I peaked early in January now. And that's all done.
That's like the best metaphor. I think crisp, to the point, sharp, but also funny. Like it's a dark comedy, but in such a subtle sense that I wouldn't say that this is funny, but I would say that it made me laugh. Does that make sense? Like, it's a weird mix.
Yeah. It's I don't know if it's intentional, the comedy or the laughs, but it was. I can't describe it, but I totally understand what you mean by comedy in this movie.
It's almost, you know, when something's so ludicrous that it makes you laugh. It's like that. There's some, you know, this is a ridiculous premise for a film if you really think about it. You know, people going to an island and then having what they think is going to be the most amazing meal of their life, and then coming to realize that they're slowly going to be killed and they're part of the menu in the end. Like, it's ridiculous. And I feel like they had to inject some form of humor into it for it to work. Because I think if they try to be too serious with this, you might think, oh, come on, like, it is quite ridiculous, this premise. You can't really do it without a bit of comedy.
I mean, when I watched this movie, I thought, like, going into it, what I thought it was going to be was somehow or another the chef was going to feed the humans back to them. Like, I thought they were going to, like, I thought they were literally going to become a part of the menu, and but it just went in a direction I just could not have I just did not anticipate it. But I'd read somewhere, I don't remember where the hell I'd seen this, but the guy that had written the screenplay screenplay had a real life experience where he went off to an island via boat to have some meal or something, and he realized he could not, or the guests could not leave the island until they finished the meal or completed all the courses or something. And obviously he's injected his own sinister element into the story. But I just thought that was great. It was just such a, what could have just been like a random story for your friends, you know, got turned into like this kind of thrilling screenplay. And
giving it depth as well, like going from, like you say, that it's so cool to think that the guy who wrote this had an experience where he might have felt a little bit on edge with the thought of maybe not being able to get out, and then being able to create a story about, you know, I don't know if they call them givers versus takers, you know, the high society people who just consume everything versus the chefs who pour their heart and soul into everything and give as much as they can. And that kind of look on society, he made that work so well in the film without it being overly about that metaphor, because I think we have seen some films where the metaphor overtakes the story and it just becomes a bit too much, too pretentious almost, or like too obviously trying to get a message across. Whereas I also think that Ralph Fiennes' acting in that role, I mean, who better to play this chef than Ralph Fiennes? He was incredible.
He, like, I just cannot imagine who else could have played that role. Like, he has such screen presence and commands your attention, and just the way he speaks, that weird accent that I couldn't tell was British or American. And it's just everything about his performance was so unsettling. Do I trust this guy? Do I not trust this guy? Is he like a legit cook, or is he a crazy lunatic psychopath? I mean, just could not. I mean,
even up to the end, like it took me a long time to think, whose side should I be on? Even when he says that he's going to start killing people, they're so obvious about it that I'm like, are they? Like, or is this still part of the story of the menu? It was so hard to decipher what was good and what was bad because of not just Ralph Fiennes, but him especially. Even right up to the end, I was like, I feel for you. Like, you are completely messed up. But you're also childlike in some ways, you know, when he makes the cheeseburger and all he wants is to impress Margot or Anya Taylor-Joy. Like, that whole relationship between the two of them, where he kind of wants her to be on his side, and you, as an audience, you're thinking, which side is the good side? Because all of the characters in the dining area are horrible. Most of them are, you know, not great people. They are all metaphors for one thing or another.
Yeah.
You know, it was that's what I liked about this film. It kept you guessing until the very end, but I think by the end you kind of figure out that he is absolutely stark raving mad.
yeah. It's definitely one of those movies where it's about the journey, because I think very early on, at some point, you find out that everyone's going to die. Like, no one's coming out of this alive, kind of thing. But then it's just like, how do we get to that point? Like, you know, and that's where the interest is. And you know, will anyone escape? I mean, the whole thing's built in a way where it all comes across as an inescapable situation, kind of thing. So
and also, just I think another really amazing thing that they used in this film was the reactions from the diners to the terrible things that were happening. So, like, when the sous chef shot himself as part of the menu, it took them so long to kind of figure out if that was real or not, because I guess, you know, your instincts are to say, oh, it's all part of it. But then obviously when they realize, they all start freaking out, but they're all doing it in very different ways. Like, I feel that Anya Taylor-Joy was the only one that had any sense, because she wasn't supposed to be there. Like, she isn't part of that society. So she's kind of like the voice of the audience going like, what the hell is going on? Like, I need to get out of here. Whereas you've got Tyler, what's his name? Nicholas Hoult.
Nicholas Hoult. Yeah. He's the guy from Skins, isn't it? The kid from Skins,
that, I will always think of him as the kid from Skins.
Like me too, yeah.
But his character was so infuriating because he didn't care. All he wanted was to be there for the food, and he was so pretentious, and I hated him so much. But he was like the opposite, and he was saying, you know, he obviously, we come to find out, he knew that they were going to die, or he had been talking to the chef about it. And just the difference between the reactions made you then second guess what was going to happen in the film. It's like, should we be as worried as Margot is, or should we be calm like Tyler is? It's just confusing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I thought it was great. It was just like very early on in the movie when they're having their first course. Tyler uses a lot of actually no, they all do. They all kind of say various lines that make me think there's some kind of foreshadowing with this where Tyler's like, I can't remember the exact words, but they're like kind of, oh, just bury me in this dish, or just, you know, oh well, you know, I want to be in this, or what, like, you know, like kind of innuendo where you'd think that's just a way you're describing a way to die or something. But then I think Tyler does it the most, and only as the story unfolds, you realize he was the only person that knew they were all going to die. But I thought he gives a great performance as well. Like how when that first death happens, he was still just there eating the food and savoring it despite what was going on around him. And you got the super pretentious food critics that are like, oh, this is just all a performance. This is just for us. They're doing it for us. You know, they're all in on it or whatever. It was just interesting to see how they all reacted. And it was only until the very end of the movie where they all accepted death, and they all, it's weird how they kind of almost didn't fight it at the end. They just
they didn't.
Yeah.
It really reminded me of like Midsummer in a weird way. Remember, you know, if you think about, you know, they really fight the idea of everything that happens within, you know, the community in Midsummer, and then by the end they're all burning and she's watching them and smiling, and it's almost like everybody just gives in by the end. And you know, when they put those like chocolate hats, it was really weird. It's like the bear in Midsummer. You put you robe them, or you put Florence Pugh's character in her flowers at the end, and they just burn. And it's like, yeah, there's something really creepy about people just accepting their fate, and that's what happens at the end, and it's very poignant, I think.
Yeah, I think the bit where, so obviously this is just going to be full of spoilers, obviously we've made that clear already, but the bit at the end where Anya Taylor gets the opportunity to leave, and I think she takes one look back at the group, and the lady who's been cheated on, the middle-aged lady, kind of just
like shoos her.
Yeah, she shoos her out of the room. It's kind of, you know, it's okay, dear, that kind of look. Yeah. You know, you go on. I think that was the moment when the room had kind of accepted what was going to happen, because none of them fought it or anything. And I think that was the finality of everything. That one moment kind of encapsulated it for me.
Yeah, you know, even in this kind of ridiculous film, you can have a sense of sadness and poignancy and you know, a moment of reflection, even if it is that they're all being dressed up as s'mores and being burnt alive, which is just ridiculous as a concept. But I read that I don't know how played out the idea of the 7 deadly sins is, because you could probably put that in any film, but somebody did make a good argument for each of the tables, or each of the people, the audience.
I want to hear this.
The diners being the 7 deadly sins. So they said that greed is the table of businessmen who embezzle the money from the company.
Those are the jocks, the frat boys.
Yeah, like business guys are like, how much do you want? We'll pay you. Tyler is gluttony, because he's willing to die for the food. Yeah,
because that's insane.
Lust was Richard, who had hired Margot as a prostitute. Yeah, you know, the old guy.
Yeah, the one who has his finger chopped off. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God, we need to talk about that. Envy was the movie star who was name dropping, even though he didn't know the name.
Okay. Sure.
Which I feel like that one's a little bit like
tenuous.
Yeah. Pride, which I do get, was the critic saying that all of this is for us. You know, they put it all on for us. I think that works.
Yeah.
This is an interesting one. Sloth was the chef's mother, who did nothing to stop her husband abusing her.
What does sloth even mean?
Sloth is like laziness.
Oh, like a sloth.
Yeah,
I don't. A sleuth.
I don't know. I don't know what came first. I think the word sloth came before the word of the animal. I don't know. I'm just guessing. Sure. Is the chef's mother, who sits and drinks, because there's that story of his dad abusing him and his mum doing nothing about it. And then Wrath is the chef himself.
You know what? I think you might be right. I think maybe that's what they went for. It was just too convenient. Like, yeah,
it does fit really well. But the only thing is, like, what was Anya Taylor-Joy then? Like, what was Margot?
As you mentioned earlier, I think she was just the audience member, or the person.
Yeah, she wasn't supposed to be a sin. Yeah, that works. Yeah. But
how did you feel about those metaphors? Like, did you pick that up from the movie when you watched it?
No, I didn't pick that up at all. I thought of us and them very much, like the way that the chefs are all behind, obviously in the kitchen, and they're all dressed differently from the the very disconnected diners who from very early on you realize aren't great people. Like none of them you're like, oh yeah, this is the person I'm going to follow.
Yeah.
Apart from Margot.
Yeah.
And I think that probably was, for me, that was the overriding reason why they were the way they were. Because, I mean, it would be a bit boring if they were all just rich and, you know, that was it. It was nice to have like businessmen, a movie star, critics, like different types of insufferable all in one place.
The full spectrum of insufferable.
The full spectrum of insufferable, which probably does lend itself to the sins because they're all different. That's the name of my
autobiography when it comes to the full spectrum of insufferable.
It's quite nice. I like it. But yeah, did you have, because I mean this film is full of fun stuff. I feel like there's so much in it to talk about. Was there anything that kind of jumped out at you that you wanted to talk about, like a scene or something that they did?
Oh gosh, I would it's weird.
I'm putting you on the spot.
Normally when we do these episodes, you know, we always come into it with like a scene you liked or a scene whatever. This is the first time I'm literally coming into an episode where or a recording between us where I'm like, it's just the whole film. I was enthralled throughout the entire thing. It's just I can't really pinpoint a certain scene, but there were moments that kind of the few moments where I was really kind of like where I thought I was like just on the edge of my seat were like one where they announce the dish or the thing called mess before the chef shoots himself, because I thought mess, they're about to create a mess and they've laid that plastic on the floor, and I was like, something's going to happen, but I just had no idea how it was going to happen, because I thought they had the opportunity to make it very brutal and gruesome. And then there was that other character that kind of is it a maitre d' or something with the lady who was like
she was really like scary.
She was a great character and just a brilliant performance. I think second to Ralph Fiennes. Like I thought she, like from the bad guys or the villain, I suppose they're not even bad guys or villains, but from his camp I thought she was like fantastic. But there was a bit where literally just before she gets stabbed in the neck with those scissors or whatever, she says something like
you won't replace me or something.
No, there was something after that. It was literally her dying words where so Ralph Fiennes tells Anya Taylor-Joy, so and so forgot the barrel over there, and she says in her dying breaths, like, I didn't forget the barrel, he didn't tell me about the barrel. So a part of me was thinking, like, so then why did Ralph Fiennes mention that one of his staff members forgot to bring the barrel? And then did Ralph Fiennes want Margot to find his secret stash or his kind of hidden place with all his pictures and that newspaper article from when he was a kid?
Almost like self-sabotage kind of,
or maybe maybe he knew she didn't deserve to be there and he was giving her an out. And like not just an out of like you can either die with them or die with us, but an out like to get out. If she's worthy to solve this puzzle, she will escape his labyrinth or whatever. I don't know. I mean, I'm just talking rubbish now, but
I've forgotten about that scene. I mean, one thing that I was thinking when I was watching it was that, I mean, he essentially is a cult leader. He keeps all of his chefs and waiters and everybody on site with him. They all sleep in very confined living quarters where like the toilet's exposed, and it's very much like a cult camp. And I wonder whether that scene shows his cult-like following of the people, because we have to believe that all of his chefs would kill themselves alongside him. Otherwise it doesn't really work, because you have to suspend your disbelief and say, well, okay, well, why would they all agree to do this? There's so many of them. And I think maybe those kind of scenes show how much control he has over the people that work for him. She went crazy thinking that, and her dying breath was to say that she was always doing what he wanted, and that he, she hadn't made a mistake, and kind of like she wanted him to know that, kind of. And I wonder whether it's just a way of showing the manipulation that he has over the people around him, and maybe bringing in what you said, he is just ultimately manipulating each person, maybe doing a power play of Margot against I can't remember her name, making them play off each other, and then whatever happens, but he's always in control.
It is fascinating how like, so Ralph Fiennes' character, like it's fascinating how a person like that could gain a following, like how charismatic or great at what they do they have to be to inspire that kind of loyalty from people, and that kind of, people want him to notice them. People want him to know they exist. Like with Nicholas Holt's character, he's like that, and he's, it's just fascinating just how, I mean, the funny thing is, it's like, this isn't even, to an extent, it's not even science fiction or fiction for that to happen like that. Like it's known to happen in real life. And it's like, I can think of people I know in real life already where I've heard them spoken about in high reverence already, where I think, like, why am I not seeing this? Like, why can I not see the glory that other people see on this person? But yeah, I mean, what kind of great things do you have to do to inspire that kind of loyalty?
Yeah, or what kind of manipulation can you, what's your personality that you're able to control people like that? Like, Tyler's the only one, if I'm right, of the diners who commit suicide rather than being killed. And it's because of something that Chef whispered in his ear.
Yeah.
And it was the control that he has to be able to use his words to get somebody to do that is, showing his ultimate power over the people like him. And it's like you say, like, that is what cult leaders are like. That's what they're able to do to the people who love them and follow them. And, even the other diners, although they wouldn't probably go to that extent, they all feel his magnetism in some way, apart from Anya Taylor-Joy's character, which is why she stands out. She won't eat his food. She will stand up to him. And ultimately, she figures out how to get out of there. She's the only one that does, because she can see through his manipulation and through his kind of cult leader tendencies, and actually gets to the point, which is he's him. I don't know what the right word is. Not he's regressing, but he was only happy when he was a chef grilling cheeseburgers, and she could see that in him. She could take away all the other layers that he's created over himself. And that cleverness and that ability to see through that is the only reason she survived, which I think was such a cool ending for her.
Yeah. But I think also from his point of view, and I think to some degree or another, we've all been him, where literally everyone at that dining experience, all the customers, they are all from that food world, and they all to some degree or another have a connection to whether it's his food or they want to be around his status and whatnot. And to a degree, like, even though Chef kind of dislikes them all, he has almost created that environment, because he's created the high-end restaurant. He's priced everyone out where only these people can afford to eat there, whereas she is outside of that world, and she's literally the only person that gives them an honest opinion throughout. And even though at the beginning he doesn't like it, and he walks into the ladies' toilet after and questions what she doesn't like about the menu, he's like, probably his whole life all he's ever heard is, I love you, your food's great. When one person comes out of nowhere who was not even supposed to be there, is not from that world, says the opposite, it drives him nuts. But then I think as the movie progresses, I think the reason why he gives her an out is because I think he respects her out of everyone in that room, and the fact that she's giving him an honest experience, and he's probably been in that kind of high-end chef world for so many years and heard all the bullshit and everything, where she takes him back to a time where he was happy, and he probably did it for the love, and she is the only customer who pays $10 or $9.99 or whatever, and yet gives him more than any of the other $1,200 customers could have given him. And it's that kind of, she liked the burger, and he made something super simple, but it was just, I think that simplicity represented his youth or his younger days, his happiness. Like, any hobby we do starts off as fun, or you're passionate about it, but then once you start getting paid for that, it suddenly becomes work. Or or maybe she took him to a time before his passion was an obsession.
It was the reason why he got into cooking in the first place, before he was discovered. And I love that scene, because when he's making the burger, his whole face changes and he softens. And
I wanted that burger so much.
And that's the thing. What's so clever about this film is the one thing I wanted to eat out of that whole film was that damn burger. The burger looks so good, and it literally was the most bog standard burger. She asked for nothing fancy, just a patty with the bun and crinkle cut chips, and it looks so good. And I think that's what the audience was supposed to feel. They're supposed to feel like, that's food, you know, really like home cooked, loved food.
Yeah, because I think when she was trying all that with him about the burger, I thought there's no way he's falling for this. There's no way. But the moment I think where it gets confirmed where he is going to play ball with her is when he says to his crew, "Are the fryers on?
Yeah.
Do we have any more sesame seed buns?" or whatever he asks.
Yeah.
Do we have chips or something? And I was like, okay, this is happening. This is good. And I wonder how many people after that movie went out and got a burger. People at the cinema or whatever.
Which is insane if you think about the fact that this is a thriller. Like, it's not a food film. It's a film that has food, but actually it works so well. They don't use it as a gimmick. There is actually something to be said for. It's just really great. And I love the way that they cut between the menu. What are they called? Dishes.
Courses?
Courses. There you go. With the kind of Master Chef where they show the food and they say what's in it. Scenes. I love that. It just made it kind of funny and interesting. And then they say, like, I love when Tyler does his really bad meal and they say, undercooked lamb or whatever it was. I just loved that. I think that was a really fun way of making it a bit different and making you remember this film.
Yeah. And at the end, when he cooks the cheeseburger, the caption is like
a burger. Just a burger. Yeah. This is just a burger.
Yeah. And I like at the end when she's on the boat and she's eating the burger, she literally uses the menu as a napkin and wipes her mouth with it.
It's like all of that pretentiousness can just go away. It's brilliant.
It's weird. It's like, I don't know if this was intended or not, but how I kind of felt about the movie a little bit was like a weird whodunit detective story almost, and it felt like have you recently seen like Knives Out and like Glass Onion? It's like Anya Taylor-Joy's character almost like just the layout of the movie is like all the suspects are making their way to this island. Someone's gonna die on this island, and Anya Taylor-Joy's character felt like the detective trying to pull the pieces together, and you're learning about all these weird characters, and it just felt like a upside down, inside out version of a traditional whodunit detective story in a weird kind of way. That's just kind of what I don't know why I felt that. Maybe I was just on a Glass Onion high or something. I don't know.
No, I actually think you're right, because throughout the film I was waiting for them to pick off the characters one by one. And I was really surprised that nobody died of the diners until the end, really. That's true, I thought that it was going to be, like you say, like a mystery of, okay, somebody's now missing or someone gets killed for one of the courses and everybody freaks out. But that doesn't happen. I mean, the old guy gets his finger chopped off, but nobody dies.
It's one of the keep them alive right till the climax or the final course of the menu. Yeah, make sure that they're nice and stewed in their terror before they get burnt alive. Yeah. The whole thing, my kind of immediate takeaway when I think I kind of felt like this midway through the movie was like, and I've heard other people online confirm this, but not confirm this, but just have a similar opinion. But then I've also heard other people apply this to various other industries and whatnot. But to me, my first kind of assessment, like midway through the movie, was this is a metaphor for the film industry. And I remember kind of like quickly jotting down what my kind of feelings were. It's like, so Margot is the traditional moviegoer that watches a movie casually, no connection to the movie industry whatsoever. The yuppie guys, the jocks, are greedy movie producers. Nicholas Hoult's character is that guy that is constantly spouting movie trivia and talks about how movies are made, but when someone gives him the camera, shoot a movie, doesn't know how to do it, does not know what he's doing. George isn't really a metaphor. He's the washed up actor who just wants a taste of his glory days, or is trying to infiltrate his way back into the movies. The critics, the food critics, are those movie critics, the snobbish movie critics. Julian's mother, the chef's mother, is the visionary filmmaker's trauma. Like, so how every movie maker or artist of any kind has that trauma in their lives that make them the storyteller they are. That give them that empathy to be able to connect to characters or connect to, to bring those performances out of the actors and whatnot. The chefs in that kitchen are the production crew. And
the people who actually do the work.
And Julian is the director. He's the Steven Spielberg or the Quentin Tarantino or whatever. That was what I took away from it in real time. So about halfway through the movie, I started feeling that, and then I started picking out each character, and it was just so obviously clear to me that it just felt like, was this movie about? It was almost like the guests are criticizing the movies or whatever, and the production of the movie at every facet of it. Like, you know, all the diners come at it from a different perspective. But then, and I think it was almost like a screw you to movie critics generally.
Yeah.
And like, okay, go on, movie critic, criticize this movie, write your review. Like, you're only proving us right. You know, it's just that kind of
I love that. That's so cool. Like it makes me think, actually, like those metaphors make perfect sense. I think they could probably be used in a lot of industries. Like you could do absolutely. Artists, or even in sport or something, you know, what anything music where somebody anything that somebody puts their heart and soul into it, and it has to be put out into the world in some way. And there will always be those money hungry, greedy parts. There will always be the critics. There'll always be the people who think they know as much as you, even though they haven't, you know, done it a day in their life. I think that's what is great about this, is you could watch it and, just like you have, pick up what works for you and things that you're interested in. Because I'm sure if a struggling artist watched this film, they would connect the dots for themselves and say, I kind of get it. Like, I feel that way sometimes. And I mean, I don't know if you've ever worked in like the service industry, but being a waitress, it does feel like that. It feels like you are working for other people and you put so much energy into it, even though it's not a talent and it's not your life's mission. You are giving and somebody else is taking, and that's the relationship. And I think even at that small level, everybody has felt like that at some point.
Oh yeah. I think most jobs across the board, I think if you are managed by someone else, especially if you're managed by middle management, you've been that waiter or waitress. Like you've been that kind of the recipient of the shit falling downhill, or, you know, like yeah.
Or any time you're customer facing as well, like any time that you have to be on the brunt of people who think that you're there to serve them. Like, I always think about like airports. People who work at airports get the brunt of so much anger, and, you know, because everybody's rushing and everybody's got places to be, and you don't control when the flights come in, but you're the person who has to tell someone their flight is delayed. You're constantly having to give that energy to people, and then they are constantly angry and throwing it back in your face. And it's just a brilliant metaphor.